And we're going to be talking about the end behavior. Yeah, so we'll see what this end behavior is. Okay, so I'm going to give you a graph, a function, a polynomial function, like 3x to the fourth minus 2x to the third plus 7. Give you a function like that. And you basically have to look for the variables in the equation, the x's, the variables. And what's the variable with the highest power? Look for that. Which letter? There's letters in your equation, right? Which variable has the highest power? There, I see a letter x here. I see a letter x here. Which one has the highest power, though? Yeah, the one that starts with 3x to the fourth. Yeah, this one. That one has the highest power. So the 3 is positive. Okay, so it's positive. I know it's positive because it's just positive 3. You don't see a negative 3. And it's x to the fourth power. That's right. That's what you're looking at. That's really all you have to focus on is this part, that it's x to the fourth power. And last time we kind of started talking about what these polynomial functions, we started talking about what are those? What do they look like and stuff? Like x squared graphs look like this. We've talked about those already. Those are quadratics. We've already studied those this year. Now we're going to be doing powers like x to the third power. You know what that looks like? It kind of goes like this. And x to the fourth power looks kind of like this, guys. So the higher the power, the more like bends and curves the graph gets. And you might notice like some of these powers, like I'll do x to the fifth. Fifth is an odd number. The 5 is an odd number, and 3 was an odd number, like x to the third, that 3 is an odd number, x to the fifth, that's an odd number. The odd numbered ones, you might notice they kind of have the same behavior. They kind of look the same, except the fifth one has like an extra bump in there. It goes up and down again. But doesn't it kind of look, doesn't the third graph and the fifth graph kind of look the same? The third power and the fifth power? Like, as far as this arrow's pointing down, and then this arrow's pointing up. And if I did, like, x to the sixth power, x to the sixth power looks like this. So I'm going to kind of compare x to the fourth and x to the sixth. What do you notice about, like, the arrows? See, they're both like pointing up. So you should kind of realize some of the graphs are kind of similar. The ones that are even and the ones that are odd powers, the exponents. The way the arrows point, So the one we have up here that we were focusing on was x to the fourth. So they want to know what the end behavior is, guys. End behavior. That's these arrows on the ends. Basically, it's like which way are the arrows pointing? What are the arrows doing? So if I have an x to the fourth power, it looks kind of like this graph. If it's 3x to the fourth, I know it's going to be kind of like this one. So I'm noticing on this x to the fourth graph, both arrows are pointing up. So what they would say on the assignment is the graph is rising on the left side and rising on the right side. It rises, it's pointing up on each end. So that's all they say for end behavior. They say it rises to the left and rises to the right. That's how they say it on the assignment. You're going to have to, like, it's like multiple choice, and you have to find the one that says rises to the left and rises to the right. This fourth power one rises on both sides. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's try f of x equals negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 4x to the fifth plus 6. Let's try this one. I want to know what the end behavior is of this graph. So again, things to think about. You want to think about, there's a lot of parts, there's a lot of little parts of that problem. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. There are 4 terms there. But which one has the variable with the highest power? Where's the variable with the highest power? Which one is it? Yeah, the -4 one. Good job. It's this one. This one, this negative 4x to the fifth. That's the one that's the highest power. So I didn't write it first. You know, this problem was mixed up. It's not in order from like highest power to lowest. But you just have to find the one with the highest power. Okay, so we're noticing it's negative 4x to the fifth. There's a negative on that. That's important. There's a negative on that, on this thing. Negative. And just for the sake of knowing what kind of graph it is, you don't really need the 4 right now. We're just focusing on that it's the fact that it's x to the fifth power. You're just focusing on the fact that it's x to the fifth power and it's negative. You don't really need to think about the 4 too much in there. Just for the sake of this graph, we just have to know what power it is. So which graph is it similar to? Well, it's x to the fifth, so it's kind of like this one, but it has a negative. Do you know what this negative is going to do? Good job. I heard you guys in the back, they said flip it. It's a reflection. So it's like the x to the fifth picture I drew, but it's like flipped around the other way. It's a reflection, so it'll look like this. Instead of the first arrow down, the first arrow is pointing up. The arrow on the left is pointing up, and the arrow on the right. See, it's flipped. And we've done flips before, right? We've done these reflections. So then your answer on your assignment's going to be, okay, this left side, see, this is the left. You say it rises on the left, rises to the left, and this arrow on the right's going down, so you'd say it falls. They say it falls to the right. So it's not too difficult, like rising and falling. That's not too bad. And then I got to just show you one more, because sometimes these graphs, sometimes the equations are presented to you in different ways. So let's try one that says, okay, let's try one that says 4x parentheses 3x minus 9 squared. And then I'll put another parentheses x minus 4 squared. Okay, this one's a little different. So you have to focus, okay, this time, how do I want to say it? It has parentheses in it. So this equation has parentheses. This equation. So it's broken up. Parentheses, it's broken up. This equation is it's in a factored form, you guys. It's already like broken in those groups. So it's already like factored apart. So it's in a factored form. So it's a little harder. I can't just look for the highest power like the last time. You have to look at for all the x's. So it's in a factored form, so you look for x variable, you know, your variable. Look for your x variables. Like I see an x right there, I see an x right there, I see an x right there, and then you look at the powers too. Look for x variables and the powers, like the exponents. So this has an x at the beginning, and then this has an x in this parenthesis, and this parenthesis is squared. So you kind of ignore all the numbers. You just need to pay attention to the letters in the problem. There's an x at the beginning, there's an x here, and that's parentheses squared. There's another x right here, and that's squared. So what power is this if you put all those x's together? If you have one x right here, and two there, and two there, how many do you have all together? Yeah, that'd be x to the 5th. So this is an x to the 5th graph. So doesn't that look like, we got a picture of one right there. It looks like that. So what would we say for the end behavior? Could you guys tell me the end behavior this time? Yeah, it falls on the left side. It falls to the left. This left arrow is going down. Falls to the left. Good job. Rises to the right. So that's the new stuff today. It's like figuring out what these graphs, what you kind of think they look like, which arrow is going up, which arrow is pointing down on the graphs. That's not too bad. There is some review questions on the assignment. They ask you about finding the zeros. We could go over one of those just for review. Because, yeah, somebody asked, like, what did we do last time? It doesn't hurt to just go over one of those again, because it only takes a couple minutes, and then you're going to have the rest of the time to work. So you're going to have time. There's a question about list each zero according to its multiplicity. So if you missed last class, or if you're still kind of confused about it, I try to go over it again. Okay, list each zero according to its multiplicity. Let's try one of those. So they give you f of x equals 4x parentheses x minus 3 parentheses x plus 2 squared parentheses x plus 5 to the 3rd power. Okay, so here's the key word in here. List each zero. How do you find zeros? How do you find the zeros? You do something with these little parenthesis things. Do you remember what you do? You equal it to 0. That's why it says find the zeros. So even the beginning of the problem says 4x. So you do 4x equals 0. Solve that. You're going to have x minus 3 equals 0. Solve that. This one says x plus 2 squared. You remember that means it's like x plus 2 and then another x plus 2. When something is squared, that means it's twice, times itself twice. So you don't really have to solve it twice. You're going to have to just figure out what x plus 2 equals 0 is and solve that. And this last one, x plus 5, that one happens 3 times. You know, you have x plus 5 equals 0, you'd have x plus 5 again equals 0, you'd have x plus 5 again. You don't really have to do it 3 times, though. It's going to be the same answer every time, isn't it? So you don't really have to write it 3 times. That's why they put cubed to shorten it up. So you don't have to write it out 3 times. But it is 3 of those. It'd be like x plus 5 times x plus 5 times x plus 5. Well, to find the zeros, you equal your problem to 0. Divide. This one you have to divide by 4. That'd be 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. How do you solve the next one? Yeah, add 3. So this one's x equals 3. Yep. So these are easy, right? You guys did these last class. Solve this, subtract 2. So you get x equals -2, and solve this one. This is x equals -5. So I ended up with 4 different answers. But we're not done. It said list the answers, list the zeros according to its multiplicity. You have to tell what the multiplicity is. And that's where I was getting at, where this answer happens 3 times. Like this x plus 5, there's 3 of these x plus 5s. So this answer has a multiplicity of 3. This answer is right. The answer is x minus 5. It has a multiplicity of 3 because it happens 3 times. 3 of those x plus 5s. And you solve them every time, it's going to be x equals -5. What about the answer -2? What about the answer -2? What's that multiplicity? How many times did that happen? 2, yeah, multiplicity of 2. Multiplicity of 2. This is an answer, x equals -2, and that has a multiplicity of 2. This answer, x minus 3, that only happened once. You know, it wasn't squared or anything. That only happened once. And this 4x thing only happened once. So those are multiplicity of 1. Like they don't repeat. Multiplicity of 1. Like it doesn't repeat at all. It just happened once each. See, those have multiplicity of 1. This answer has a multiplicity of 2. And this answer has a multiplicity of 3. And this multiplicity thing, it's going to come up when we graph. And we're going to get to that later. Like in a few days, we're going to be doing the graphs. So that will mean something like special on the graph, the multiplicity thing. So yeah, we had to solve by equaling to 0 all the x variable parts and solve them and tell the multiplicity. That just means that answer happened 3 times and this answer happened twice. Okay, so that kind of covers everything, you guys. See, I try not to talk at you like for a whole hour. I want you to have time to work. So try to get you guys the basics of the graphs. And now you know like when the graphs fall or rise. You have pictures here. And yeah, there will be like review questions about finding the zeros like that. That'll be like the first few questions. Find the zeros. So if you need, I don't know, which page do you want me to leave up? That one or the graph one? Other one with all the graphs? Yeah. This is the main thing you're learning today. Yep, and there's a few review questions. So yeah, we can go on Alex. Let me double check. They wanted me to see if I published it.